what I've noticed recently, is that my vision outside, because I'm comparing to like January to January last year, and I wrote some stuff down. I I was noticing a lot more problems when I was trying to work with my naked eye, like with computers and stuff. Like it was much more blurred. Like the vision was much more kind of like staticky. Like the static was giving me a lot more problems. This time it feels lighter. It feels better. I've definitely got more color, but the floaters have been a bit more irritating than usual. There's been a lot more floaters, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's why I was asking you with keratoconus. Can you get like static like imaging from that? Though, because I
Uh,
know you can get
what
floaters and all that from it.
No. So what keratoconus does is that it gives you ghosting and things like that.
No, I saw what it
However,
does. It's fucking nasty. Yeah.
yeah, what it can do though is it can mix up some of the images, like things from a certain. It's lighting that it affects. So if you've got lighting from like the headlights of a car, that will then flash out, as
Yeah.
it were.
See, the
So that
problem
it does
is,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
So, but it doesn't really like starburst basically. But in terms of like it, there were times where things appear to be hazy, but my keratoconus has gotten a little better since the last year because they tested me. So basically, this hospital that I go to is the number one for keratoconus for handling it in the country. So they checked my vision a year ago, then they checked it again this year. My vision quality is actually improved, but because I got keratoconus close to 30 at 33,
Yeah.
basically at 35 years old your eyes stop changing shape. So if
Oh,
you were to get
interesting.
this so if you were to get this in as a kid
30s.
or
Yeah.
as a teenager
10.
or early
Yeah. Yeah.
20s,
Fucked.
it could progress, unless you, because
So
rubbing
your
your
eye,
eyes.
so your eye stops changing shape at a certain age.
Yes, so basically, apparently, there's certain elements of the eye that are constantly changing, which I didn't realize in terms of shape, and
Oh.
that contributes to the progression of keratoconus. Obviously, keratoconus seems to be people who rub their eyes a lot.
I
Basically,
used to
they
rub
tend
my
to,
eyes. I rub my eyes, but not all the time. It'd be occasionally I'd
yeah,
rub them,
but
but it would never.
allergy would contribute to eye rubbing and that
Yeah,
kind of
it
stuff.
would
But
never be
basically,
like. Yeah, I never did it every day. It wasn't like
no,
but I'd
no, no, I
sometimes
did
wake
it
up
like
and I'd
that.
be like, oh, I'm just like, but not
I did it
not. I'd never
like
push it hard, because I do got to. The only reason I wear this is for the astigmatism in that eye. Otherwise, this eye was fantastic. I before VS, I could take my glasses off and not notice anything unless I'm watching the TV, and it was there to counteract that ghosting. And now I've got VS, I get ghosting in my fucking brain, and it's like, oh, thanks a lot.
I know.
But I can,
No.
I
I
can,
remember, yeah, there was a time like a year, more than a year ago, where like if I was to watch TV, like the ghosting was worse than it is now. Like if I was watching snooker, like the fucking balls were like ghosting. All the balls were ghosting. The names of the players was ghosting. There was no clarity in like there was a lot more. There was definitely a lot more static and a lot more ghosting going on, and the floaters were more irritating. So it's definitely calmed down a lot. It's definitely not me getting used to it
yeah,
because it was actually impacting how I did things. I actually had to wear things. I had to wear certain types of glasses and stuff like that to get around things. Now I don't have to do any of that. So
yeah. I think it, the problem with like VS and character tone, like you don't know. Now it's going to be more difficult for me if I get eye problems to tell if it's coming from my brain or my fucking eyes.
mm,
And it's like I think a lot of people with VS are like, is it my eyes or is it my brain? Because it can give you the same symptoms. But I'm thinking what's happening with the visual images. Like Shenkin said, half the vision, like the ghosting and halos and all that shit, are probably coming from the lingual gyrus being overactive, so it's not able to keep things. What did he say? It's almost like a slowdown of electrical transmission. That's exactly how I would put it. And that
yeah,
slowdown is causing hyperexcitability. So it's sort of like it goes slow, but it's hyperexcitable at the same time, which is fucking weird. It's like a double-edged sword. But all I know of palinopsia is in the left parietal lobe. So I don't know if they could do RTMS on the right parietal lobe, because I think if they fix people with palinopsia, because that's the one symptom that could actually disable me if it got worse. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Like, people get fucked over by that. But generally speaking, hopefully my fucking shit doesn't get worse.
mm,
I think you know, someone with a little bit of health anxiety, it's not fucking good having a fucking like problem in your brain. You know, it just kind of makes you like apprehensive. You know, but if you knew there's nothing wrong, you wouldn't be worried. But I think it's that unknowingness that is a problem.
Yeah, I think the amount of people on Instagram who reach out to me, and do you know what's interesting? Some of the people who reach out are people who have had it for several years, but even though they know their symptoms are mild, the moment they find out that it
Oh, it
has a
makes it
name,
worse.
the syndrome, like it has a name, and that it there's they're reading the worst case scenarios, then they kind of like it's like with me, yeah, like I had my tube dysfunction thing. You go in the group stuff. Oh my god! Like on like I think it was on it was Discord. There was one. Oh
Yeah.
bloody hell! That was like it was like you just read the worst case scenarios. You must never read worst case scenarios because
I
that doesn't
know. I
that's
think
never assumes you.
I think Jen Ambrose is really fucking severe. Like
Yeah.
her I wonder if hers is worse than Sierra's, man, because she showed
She
a
can
picture.
drive though. I don't get that. So I
Eh?
find it bizarre. She can
She,
drive though. So how can she
really?
hers that?
She told me she has problems with her vision catching now. I don't
No,
know.
she,
It's
she
weird.
drives her kids to school.
Really?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. It's like what? I don't know.
Some-
She's
they,
very up and down
yeah,
with her symptoms.
there's something not right. There's something.
I believe her and stuff, but it's it's
No,
just
no,
like
it's bad, but she's very inconsistent with what she says with
says, yeah,
regard to
symptoms.
her symptoms. Look, there's numerous problems. Like you got obviously VSI, which is great. Like they raise funds and stuff, but
And so yes for statues.
yeah, but they lack real transparency. Like they don't tell you what's happened to Dr. Pellak. Like all that money that was raised, why is that
I know
project
COVID slowed a lot of
started?
shit down, right? But
Oh, this
yeah,
a lot of scam, but why is there no genuine explanation? Why does ignoring people work?
yeah,
It's like the Trump administration the way they work. To be
yeah.
honest,
It was like okay, so if we put COVID aside, what they were meant to do, VSI said they were going to do genetic testing, they were going to do light therapy, they were going to do fucking um that was two things, RTMS, and we just heard nothing about those three particular things. And I emailed Steve Yaman, and he's like, I don't know about this. I'm like, dude, one of your videos says it. It's like, what? Oh, fuck, it kind of annoyed me, eh? But I don't know. I think the good thing about Shankin is he says what he wants to do because I listened to it several times. So he wants to find that alpha rhythm in the brain, right? And if you can re-feedback that alpha rhythm to the brain, you can get the brain back into synchronization, and then everything should work again. But I still think they need to do like genetic testing. Make sure this isn't some kind of gene that's switched on, right? Because otherwise RTMS ain't going to do shit. Make sure there's not a protein deficiency or something. Just very basic things. I mean, you can't keep scanning the brain because it can only fucking tell you so much.
well, there's been numerous attempts at RTMS from what I've heard, like from odd people here and there, and it's not done anything. But then again, is it the right approach? I don't know.
Well,
Like,
that's why Shenkin said we've got to find the correct alpha rhythm. You
hmm,
know, or signature, put it that way. But like I say, if it's coming from the middle of your brain, the thalamus, then that's an electrical issue. This is what I don't get. Like, if it is coming from there, 100%, because Francesca Pilata says, oh, it's coming from the salient network. It's disrupted. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course. Like, of course you're going to see a disruption in the fucking brain because something's out of fucking whack, man. It's like playing a video game and you turn VSync off. What are you going to get? Bloody screen sharing. So it's sort of the same in your brain. And I just think if this is an electrical fault coming from the thalamus in the brain, it makes sense why you're getting all these symptoms because it's not. I don't know how much you've looked into oscillation, but it's sort of like a rhythmic synchronization, right, of how it sends out information to the cortex and then it comes back, and it's meant to be in harmony everywhere, but something's gone array, and it's not sending. It's not in synchronization, basically causing all this disruption they're seeing in like the brain scans. So the only thing I'm looking at is like, yeah, this is a thalamus problem because that's the part of the brain that says, nope, those signals aren't important, move on. So unless they can get to that part of the brain, I think they're going to have massive trouble.
yeah, that's the problem. I think. Oh, it's just that. we got all these like VS, right? All over TikTok and all these other places I've been looking at online or in opticians and stuff. People actually know what it is now. Like it's widespread. People know what's going on. The research is taking a good turn, like with what they're doing with Dr. Shanking, Goldsby, and the Australian team as well, and all that kind of stuff. But when you've got all these additional, what I don't like is all this vision therapy talk, and my reason for this is, you've got a charity. Well, this is what I don't like about it. Like VSI has done a lot, but I'm not really donating to them anymore. I rather donate straight to the research itself. Like
Yeah,
it's
same.
better. But at the same time, it's like, why are you peddling therapy? Like I get, like in America, it's recognized somewhat, but for example, vision therapy research can't get an official accreditation to be classed as an official medical research. It will never end up on PubMed, for example, because it's not classed as it's pseudoscience. No country in the world, bar the US, recognizes this shit as an actual sort of form of treatment or recognize that it makes any difference, because Europe, I think, has far higher standards when it comes to these things. America peddles a lot of pseudoscience, but at the same time America has a lot of development in real science as well, which is a bit of a weird balance. But it's weird for a charity to peddle pseudoscience. There's no guarantee any of this shit works, because they can release their fucking protocol if they want, but the reality is there's no physicians in Europe or around the world that specializes in vision therapy. There's no such thing as that. So,
Yeah,
it's putting all your eggs in one basket. And I can see the other scientists are keeping their mouths shut because they rely on VSI for funding, but they really want to open their mouths and say, what these people are doing is dog shit. It's absolute dog shit what they're
yeah.
doing.
I'll
It's bullshit. It's not scientific. We don't support this, but they can't say that.
Yeah, so the way
So,
I look at the vision therapy is they tried an approach to see if it done anything. I'm fine with that, right? What I didn't like is VSI gave them money and then they still wanted to charge the clients money. And I'm like, wait, what?
yeah,
You're meant to be doing a trial here. And they said some of them got better, but you've got to put into perspective, some people actually have eye problems and visual snow syndrome. So if they were
yeah,
getting better, I would say that they actually had eye problems and it fixed up their eye problems, and then the visual snow was still there, because they never said it gave them total remission. It just said it helped some people, and I'm in the camp of I didn't have any visual problems. I can do better eye exercises than my cousin, and he doesn't have visual snow syndrome and all this sort of stuff, right? So it's like, well, no, I just don't think it's. I asked Joanne Fielding, and she said if you've had a sort of injury to the head, right, vision therapy can help recreate new pathways. But this visual snow is an organic thing without injury, so it's completely different, and it sits on an electrical current in your brain. So I'm like, how is vision therapy going to fix that? So I do believe it can help people that have either had an injury with visual snow or have other eye problems to begin with. So that's why some people get helped. But if you're
mm,
talking about organic visual snow, I do not believe it's going to help that at all. And because there are other problems like the tinnitus, hyperacusis, fucking brain for all that palinopsia, and I just, the research hasn't come out, and I just, it will come out, but I just don't think it's gonna give the results wanted. And Dr. Stefan, how do you pronounce his name?
you
Um,
call it to S is probably easier.
yeah,
That's what
Dr.
they call
S. Charles Savosky, whatever. He actually admitted that there were patients with visual snow, he couldn't do anything for them. And that's what
it.
I
Yeah,
would call proper visual snow syndrome. And then he came back and said, I think there may be neuroinflammation in the brain. And he wants to investigate it. And I agree with him. Yes, that's possible. So he at least acknowledges that there may be a deeper cause for some other people. And there may be other problems, such as injury, which is inflammation, but creating different pathways. Because inflammation in the brain can be immune response or it can be injury response. They're two different types of inflammation you're talking about, right? One's neuro, which means the immune system causing a problem, and then there's being hit on the head, which causes swelling inflammation. Two different types of things, right? So I think he was saying, look, people have neuroinflammation somewhere in the brain. Let's investigate that for the people we can't help. And that I'm fine with, right? But I just don't like the whole vision therapy going to fix everyone. And the SI even came out and said, look, this isn't a cure. Oh, you've gone mute. Can't hear you.
Nah, just trying
There
to
you
drown out background sounds of conversations from people.
are. Fair enough.
Just so that it wasn't captured in the recording.
That's
No,
okay.
but you know what? Yeah, I just don't. If I was to try vision therapy, it would only be with Dr. Sang. I don't know. I just find the other guy a bit shady because there was
Yeah.
issues around thing.
Yeah.
Look,
But
the
he did make a
reality
good
is,
point, though.
no. When you do proper scientific research, right? Because I'm part of the study with Dr. Sui Wong and stuff, yeah. Like in the UK, it goes through ethics boards. Like you have to get approval. The results have to be reviewed, peer reviewed. You think vision therapy is going to go through all of that?
Oh,
Of
yeah,
course it
no.
isn't. It's,
I
you know,
agree with you. I agree with you. And that's why I said it may help some people who have had actual injuries to their brain and who actually have saccade problems naturally with their eyes. But when it comes to actual visual snow syndrome, no, I don't think it's going to fucking help.
I think what's happening here is that you got people who mentally struggled with it. They got help, and then afterwards they're sort of thinking they've improved, and then they're thinking, yeah, it's fixed vision therapy. That's what I'm thinking. I think it makes no difference because it for this
You did it for
method.
ages, didn't you?
Yeah, but the thing is, yeah, the method has never yeah. I just find it bizarre, this whole thing. Like it's not scientifically recognized as a method that helps.
Yeah.
Any respectable scientist will say that. And like I say, in the UK, you'll never ever catch a charity ever endorsing pseudoscience. Never in a million years. You'll never it's weird for a charity to release I understand there is a syndrome with very little to no treatment. But for example, releasing the static videos, doing pseudoscience type stuff, in retrospect, it was like, okay, you're trying to help.
That's
But
neurofeedback,
you
yeah,
you
of a
should also
different
know
type.
it's a load of bullshit as well. Actually, if you're a team of if you're a charity trying to fundraise for if you're a charity and you've got a platform, you should be doing several things. One, raising awareness, peddle the right information in terms of the scientific information, but then you're compromising the proper scientific research by then peddling pseudoscience, by doing stupid static videos and doing the stupid vision therapy stuff. It's like you it's such mixed messages. And also when people email them asking them what's my money being spent on, and then afterwards it takes for Jen Ambrose from the other foundation to start raising money for Monash University, and then people were
Yeah.
questioning vision therapy. It's like only when they're cornered do VSI come out with like a statement saying that, oh, we got the money from a trust and that's what's funding vision therapy. I'm like, if you fucking say these things from the get-go, it might help.
Yeah.
They lack real transparency as a charity. I do not trust them at one bit. I appreciate they're getting the word out there, but I don't trust them with the research side because I really think they piss money down the drain. And I'm
I
rather
agree. Look, I agree with you. Yeah.
Dr.
It's
Goseby and all them lot, Professor Goseby and them lot will naturally fund. They have no problems funding because they're in Europe, most of them. Like Dr. Shankin, they have good links. Dr. Wong as well. VSI, by the way, just to clear things up, VSI didn't give much money to that. They only funded the scans. 99% of the money came from UK charities, okay? Headache organisations, those type of things. So don't think VSI is fully funding VS research. Most of the
yeah.
money is coming from elsewhere. So, I would rather just donate directly to the research myself.
Yeah, I don't know. So my theory is they wanted to actually VSI with the static videos and the vision therapy was more about neurofeedback, and it's like, well, we do know that looking at the static video temporarily, because Joan Fielding's even said that, can temporarily calm things down, but it doesn't fix the problem, and you need something to actually fix the problem, you know. So whatever's going on in the brain, I think the static videos are just causing what you call helping the brain synchronize, but that's not going to fix the problem. So it's like, okay, we know there's a synchronization problem. It can tell you things, but as a treatment, yeah, I'd agree with you. It's not, it shouldn't be, peddled. Like VSI made the biggest mistake saying treatment's coming with vision therapy. They should never have said that because everyone on Reddit got their hopes up and still do, and they get quite.
Yeah, that's a very American thing to do, to kind of like really peddle things and make it sound enthusiastic, and then it ends up being it's like their politics. It's the same thing. They use it. They're very slogan driven in that country, whereas in Europe we're a lot more kind of measured with when we promise things. We're very cautiously optimistic, which is probably the better approach. So they shouldn't be doing things like that at all.
Yeah, because some of the symptoms that come out of visual snow are glitchy vision, black spotches, all of this sort of thing. And I'm like, that's definitely an electrical problem in the brain. And so this is why I pedal towards more like there is a chemical or electrical imbalance somewhere in the brain, and we need to actually look at that. And this is why they're going to do their brain scans. And I'm like, you've tried your vision therapy, leave it alone, leave it to rest. And I did not like the fact that there were some people on Reddit saying they wanted to spend $5,000 US just to go through it. I'm like, that's wrong.
Yeah. I really think,
and it's not even
that
guaranteed.
That money would probably have been best in like donating to the research and stuff like when you think about it in context. Yeah. Like VSI, like they've done lots of good things with regards to like making like, because I remember there was a time before VSI where all the experts were kind of working on their own little corner, whereas actually they got them together and things like that. That's all good, and they've given good resources online. The videos were helpful, all that kind of stuff. But now we're at this stage here where actually their efforts should be trying to raise money from a national university, because they struggle for funding for some odd reason. I think maybe in Australia funding for science is hard anyway.
I think Monash lost. I think they were actually getting some funding from the government in Australia, but because of COVID they had to cut it. It's like, oh, shit. But what I don't understand is Jen Ambrose actually. Someone said they tried to talk with VSI, and they said, let's raise money together and donate it to Monash University. But VSI said no. And I'm like, why? It's not a competition.
Yeah, because Jen Ambrose is not an individual. She's doing it through Ion Vision. And the weird thing is that before, do you know when they raised money in the beginning, like in the very beginning for those research, Ion Vision partnered with VSI, I think, on that. Because I remember Ion Vision kind of like stepped aside and said, oh, put your funds towards VSI. But what's happened now is because they didn't want to collaborate, she's kind of like nicked all the donations, and then they try to counter it with like their own little campaign saying, "No, we want funds." And you can see the VSI one has struggled big time. I would not give them a penny because I don't know where that money is going to go.
Yeah, I was pissed off that they spent money on T-shirts and all that, and I'm like, what are you doing? And then they advertise it on the Visual Snow page, and I'm like, you're preaching to the choir. You're making shirts.
Yeah, but like, no one should be putting things like VS is BS or whatever. Like, you should not be using that on a T-shirt anyway. Like, it is known that you can do merchandise fundraising. Like,
yeah,
for
but
example,
that was dumb. That was really dumb.
If you sell merchandise and stuff, it helps. It's not going to raise awareness. It doesn't. It never does these type of things.
What you want to raise awareness, do a bloody TED talk.
Because I think Stephen Yamin does have I think he runs merchandise type stuff, and he does it off his own costs. So I don't think that the donations go towards that. However, what I don't like is there's no transparency as to where the donations go. Like, what research project is it going to? I don't understand. And what I don't like is on the donation page, it has vision therapy as the main kind of thing that you're like. Why would I fund something where you're charging the patients money to go and see them? So basically, they're making money off this and raising their status. Like, those two.
It's unethical.
Dr. Shedlowski are clearly profiteering from this. Anyone who's not from the US can see this. With anyone with half a brain can see this. It's pseudoscience at best. Everyone can see this, and it's just absolute nonsense. What we should be looking at is, why is Dr. Pelak's research not started yet? Look at the progress Dr. Shankin's making, and then look at what's it, the other one, Dr. Monash. Like, get them funds. I think the focus should be get Monash the funds. That should be everyone's focus.
Monash, what Joanne Fielding is, she told me she found microstructural changes in the thalamus, and I'm like, that doesn't sound bloody good. And she goes, what was meant to happen last year is they were meant to do these new type of scans on the brain, and she said, unfortunately, we didn't get the funding, so we couldn't do it, and it would have actually been a real massive breakthrough in discovering what's going on in the middle of the brain. It's going to cost $400,000 to do that, and it's like, Shankin said.
So that's okay, because I remember they were meant to put people through that new scanner.
But she couldn't get it done. Didn't get it done because you had COVID, lack of funding, and everything just got fucked, basically. So she still wants to do it. And every time I've asked her, at least she's honest, and I can feel her frustration. She said, a lot of the things I've asked her, why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done this? She always comes back and says, I'd love to do it. funding. She said, sorry for sounding like a broken record, but it's money, you know. And people don't seem to get that. And I put a post on Reddit saying, if everyone donated $5 that's on here, or even $20, do you know how much money you'd actually get going towards them? Shit tons. You know, but and this is why I get angry at some people, because they moan on Reddit, but they're not willing to donate $5. Not like I'm poor.
Yeah, and it's funny,
right?
it's the ones who usually have it who are the least likely to give. Like they'll
Yes.
moan and they'll piss money on like this is where
Right.
how people be stupid sometimes. And the thing is, yeah, I kind of distance myself from the whole community nonsense, because a lot of the people on there are just complete idiots, to be honest with you. And I think people would do well to stay away from the groups and stuff. I think the best thing to do is watch your videos on TikTok, watch stuff on YouTube, that kind of stuff, and just take in information for yourself. Go and see health professionals. Just get and listen to the videos which the scientists are talking on. Don't listen to nonsense from people. But they'll spend money on medications which have worked for like 1 in 1,000 people or whatever. They'll piss money on that. But when it comes to actual research that's going to help loads of people, no, they don't want to. Nothing. They're prepared to risk themselves. Medication is likely to make you more worse than better. So
that's what I tried to explain to my brother. I said they released a report, right, on saying, oh, this is what medicines do for visual snow, and it literally said worsening did nothing, and the benefit was right here. And I was like, no, the risks outweigh the benefits. And a lot of, I shit you not, so many people on the Visual Snow forum and the fucking Reddit forums are like, hey, well, I've tried this Topamax, or they've tried this, or the SSRI, and the gabapentin, and all this. And I'm like, you're just throwing medicine into your brain, not knowing what you're trying to fix. And I said, that medicine may actually mess up a chemical in your body or in your brain that's actually fine, and then it causes more symptoms, because you're disrupting your brain's already going under this electrical change, and then you throw medicine in, and it's like, you don't know what you're playing with.
Look, in my case, right, when I first got VS, obviously it was progressing about up to a year. But then, up to that first year, I was also severely stressed for that whole time, in the lead up to VS and during the first year. In the second year of VS, a lot of my lifestyle changes kicked in. What I'm saying is my baseline was always probably around the mild level, but because of the stress, it pushed my symptoms up to moderate. So because I've got my kind of nervous system calmed down now, and I've got a good routine, and I'm not stressed about it on a continuous basis, my symptoms, is on the plateau level. If you constantly stress about it, if you take chemicals that fuck up, don't worsen something that's already disrupted, is the best way I can say it.
Yeah. That's the problem, and that's what I was pointing out. Like, so before I got VS, I never had any depression. I felt energetic. There was nothing wrong with my mood. There was nothing wrong with my thinking. Like, because this shit's given me a bit of brain fog, and I think that's just an overworked brain. But during that 2 years, I did not touch any medicine like SSRIs, benzodiazepines, or anything like that, because I'm like, I'm just going to let it stabilize itself. And anything that I have touched is just been things like vitamins and normal things that help feed the brain, basically. That's normal, that's fine, that's not going to hurt you. But when you take something that reuptakes chemicals in your brain, recycles them, that's not good. And I think a lot of people, they get very... The problem with this disorder is it's a spectrum, and it can be very nasty in people, but people just think, oh, I'm going to throw some medicine, that'll fix it, and it doesn't. You just...
No, I think Dr. Shanking, I think when he discovered the breakthroughs in those scans he did, do you remember about the network disruption, like the salience networks and all that kind of stuff? He said, I mean, Dr. Goseby reiterated it in their conclusions in some of the PubMed reports, that any physician should not be advising any medication at this point, because this disorder is far more vast than what we anticipated. Like, they knew it was vast, but they didn't know to what extent.
Yeah, in other words, don't take anything that...
The best thing they can do at the moment is promote healthy lifestyle and to kind of like manage stress. That's the best thing they can do at this moment in time, until treatment is found.
Yeah, because you've got a disruption in the salient network, which is causing all sorts of things in your brain to go fucking mental, right? And it needed to stabilize itself. And then people are like, I'll take a benzodiazepine, which reuptakes the GABA in your brain, which is also being shown to shrink your brain, and you're not meant to take it long term because it's dangerous. And people go on it for like fucking years.
I think a lot of people need to read like
They
the
don't.
scientific. No, I'm not saying people need to understand the science of it in terms of the research, but if they just read the conclusions of those scientific research and just see what they come up with, you'll understand the breakthroughs that are happening and what they're trying to. Like, it is drip feeding research. It is drip in terms of what they're finding out, but it all adds up over time. Because I knew from day one you don't take drugs for this. Like, it's
Yeah.
stupid. Like, why? How can something so complicated be fixed by vitamins? Like, like I fell for it in the early days, but now that I think about it, like, how can we as people be so stupid to think that such a simple thing will make such a difference? If something was that easy to fix, the cure would be found ages ago. There
Yeah.
won't be no cure in our lifetime. Let's get that very clear. But there will definitely be treatments. I think there will be
Yes.
several treatments available. They will not be pharmaceutical in any way, in my opinion. I think at some point there will be pharmaceutical, but I think
Yeah.
that's a trickier road to go down. I think it's more the neurofeedback type stuff that's going to work.
Yeah.
But you need to know, like you say,
That's why, yeah, I agree with you. That's why I agree. You know those static videos that you disagreed with, that Joanne Fielding said, oh, you show someone the static videos, it actually does neurofeedback in your brain, but it doesn't cause a permanent change to the brain. It relieves the brain because it synchronizes shit. Because you know that static overlay you can put on the screen, I turned that on the other night, and then I turned it off, and my static calmed down, and after about 5 minutes it returned back to normal. That's called neurofeedback, because it's telling the brain, oh, look at all this, and it calms it down. But what they're doing with RTMS is like, we need to throw this into the brain to make it stick.
Mm.
And once it sticks, it should get that, because something knocked it off course. We don't know what knocked it off course, right? But the neurofeedback is actually like calming the neurons down in the brain properly, not just through your
You want
eyes.
like some sort of glasses that just plays the static video in the corner of the eye, like 24/7, whilst you live your life. It's just like, and it just permanently freezes it. So that's one treatment.
That's what it does. But it doesn't.
What's something funny I read like a year or two ago? I think when VSI first came out as a charity, they were trying to do these weird glasses or something. I was like, do you know what?
know.
Yeah, they're like a startup company trying to come up with wacky ideas, and it's like
That's
nothing.
it. Yeah, it's like wacky ideas. But
And
look,
then after they like sell that statue for $300,000. I'm like,
I think it's still there.
I think they're trying to raise funds for Monash and things like that. But it's like, you're in California, right? And you're telling me, because look, they keep doing these like public service announcements, these PSA videos, right? And they get really good celebrities to do it. But I'm like, that's not going to make a difference. Getting those celebrities to post on their social media about the cause and peddling it to their followers is what you do. Like, I work for Operation Smile, right? It's quite a big charity in the US. The celebrities they get will post on their own social media. They don't record videos. You put because the VSI channel has barely any followers. Any Visual Snow stuff barely has followers. A couple of thousand ain't going to cut it. But if you've got a celebrity who has hundreds of thousands of followers, that's way better to peddle that.
I wish someone like Elon Musk would get this shit, hey? You know? But then, you know, you probably wonder if they'd even care about you. You know, I find funny
it's a tricky one. I think, like, because it's a disorder which it has symptoms where the symptoms are a condition on their own. Like, for example, like in the UK, believe it or not, you can actually claim disability on light sensitivity alone. So,
and palinopsia. Those are the two disabled. I don't think the static's actually disabling. It's just very fucking annoying. It's most people on Reddit said it's their additional symptoms that are messing their lives up, and that's true for me.
Yeah.
Like when I first got the static, I was like, okay, that's annoying, and then I got the palinopsia, I got depressed. I was like, oh, I don't need that shit. You know what I mean? And over the year, like, hopefully it hasn't changed. I've almost had it 2 years now, and that's depressing. But it's like, what the hell? Like Matthew Renzi's one, jeepers, fuck! He's like, it lasts for like 3 seconds in its vision. It's like,
I
I
think
was like,
sometimes it's mental strength as well to overcome symptoms. I'm not in. I'd say in some cases it is disabling, but there are people who the
literally
slightest thing will
overcome it.
make them nervous. But there's someone like Matthew Renzi who's mentally tough, and
Yeah. I
he
wasn't
has
at first. Yeah.
problems, but he learns how to ignore it and live his life. Some people are good at that.
Yeah. And some people, it just depends on the individual. And like having any kind of visual disturbance isn't fucking nice, mate. You don't, no one deserves to have messed up vision. And like I said, like the static does annoy me, but I've mostly forgotten. I went for a walk today, and it was so sunny outside, I didn't even see any static. I was like, oh my god, my vision almost feels normal. It's like,
Yeah,
geez,
but I think like you wonder like the people who got it through LASIK. So what do you call it?
LASIK
Was
surgery.
the laser eyes thing? Like before, yeah, I thought they were talking nonsense, but actually, like you said, it could have done something to the signal in the brain when they were
Well,
doing that.
the eyes are the only way into the brain's thalamus. You can't get through the ears, or you can through like binaural beats when people meditate. But going through the eyes can like your eyes actually don't see anything. It's they only let light into the brain, and then your brain does the rest, and it goes straight down the cone or whatever in your eyes, straight to the thalamus, and it's right there where everything gets filtered. Right there, static after images. It goes like when
Mm,
you look at a diagram of the brain, it is so like I just thought it went in the eye and you saw here. No, it goes to the prefrontal cortex, it goes here, it goes here, it goes here, and then it goes to the visual cortex, and then it feeds over here and it feeds back. And
oh,
it does that literally within, what was I reading? Your eye can see, or your brain sees an image 76 times in a single second. That's
that's
how much your brain sees, 76 times in 1 second. So you've got to think how fast that shit's going in your brain. And something in there has slowed down. That's why you're getting palinopsia, because it's a tricky one, because Shanken said, oh, there's hypometabolism, which means something's slowed down, so you're getting after imaging because it can't inhibit quick enough. It can't
mm.
it can't stop that signal. That's why you get after images. As for the static, I don't know where the fuck that's coming from. I know it's not actually originating in the eye at all. It's not. It's not. Probably in the lingual gyrus where that's coming from, because
Mm.
it's increased. It's increased.
It's incredibly complex, but like I can see why Dr. Shanklin was like, you know what, we just got to give this shit a go and just do neurofeedback. But I think when you attempt treatment, you're more likely to you find out what works, what doesn't work, and you find out why it works and why it doesn't work. I think the process of elimination finds out more. Because I
Yeah.
remember Dr. Khan was saying that as well. Like sometimes with treatment, you
Will
just got to
come
give it.
first before. Yeah, a treatment will probably come before an answer.
Yeah. And to be honest, the answer can come from the treatment. Like for example, I've gone to hospital for several things before, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have we have a treatment for this, but we still don't know the definitive cause, but we roughly know what the cause is." I think VS will be one of those where there'll never ever be a definitive cause, but there'll always be like an educated guess as to what causes it. Because if
Yeah.
things are far less complex do not have a definitive cause, there's no way this will.
This is
So.
what. Yeah. This is what they know. They know it's an electrical fault. That's an absolute given. They know roughly what part of the brain is responsible, and that's your thalamus, and then the salient network. All right. So there's a disruption there, and I think this is why I asked Joanne Fielding. I said, "Is something broken with our brains?" She said, "No, I don't think it's broken. I think it's fixable. But you really got to come down to whether it's neuroinflammation causing the problem, whether it's just like you've got like your body makes all these proteins for your brain that from the food you take. It could just be your brain's not produced. Your body might not be producing the protein, or a receptor may be faulty in your brain that's causing all of this. I mean, it's really hard to say, but I hope the neurofeedback does something. Hopefully, it's like, oh, come up for neurofeedback, we can treat it, it'll be done. You're only going to need like 3 sessions and it fixes it. It
I
could come
remember,
back.
like, like, obviously the study I've been doing with Dr. Wong with regards to like the meditation stuff and everything is
Mm.
like like VSI weren't even aware that was an actual piece of research. I think I'm the one who emailed them and let them know
Yeah.
about it. And then in the end, they then funded her. Like they got in contact with her. And I'm like, you're a visual snow charity. You're not even aware of the works that's going on out there. It's like it's ridiculous.
I
Like,
know. I
but don't get me wrong, yeah. Since I've been doing it and stuff, like I have noticed some improvements. Like it has helped in some ways. Like I would say, like 10%. Like I would never I would never say meditation is going to be your main answer. But what I can say is that it can bring a level of control of the symptoms, and it can stop them. Like if you were to choose between taking medication and doing that, I would say do your bloody meditation. It will
Well,
sort
that's
your
what
mental
Matthew
health.
Renzi said. He did a speech
Yeah,
not so
but
long ago.
it will downscale your it will reduce your severity of your symptoms and have them more consistent. Because I know some people are very inconsistent with their symptoms. So when I did the way I did it was I think we did it for like 3 to 6 months and it was like really intense. Like you do it 5 days a week and so forth, and then you're really forcing a brain change. I even had to do brain scans and everything. I'll be interested to see what the conclusion ends up being. But then once you've kind of done that after a while, I noticed that even though there wasn't a difference in the symptoms immediately, but after 3 months, there was definitely some improvement. And also, the symptoms are less erratic these days. So after 3 to 6 months of doing it, you don't need to do it 5 days a week going forward. You can do it like, I don't know, 3 to 4 times a week or something and just do it like 15, 20 minutes, however you want to do it. But it does, I don't know how to even explain it, but it does like keep the severity of it down to a minimum as much as it can. But like I say, it's not going to work as well as neurofeedback. I think that's going to be way more potent because that's actually targeting the parts of the brain. And if you want to see that half your symptoms disappear or whatever, then I think neurofeedback's the way. But if you want something that's going to work somewhat, then meditation's the way forward.
Yeah, it just really depends what's going on in the brain. Is something actually failing? Like it's a piece of your brain that's failing to do its job. And like I say, I hope it's not a genetic thing or like it's a gene that's switched on. But apparently the reticular nucleus, right? Oh, where'd you go? Oh. So you got the thalamus, right, and then around it you've got this reticular nucleus, and that is the gating station for the entire brain. That basically says what's important and what's not important, right? And it says, no, that's not important. I'm going to drown that information in the background out and
Yeah.
help your brain pay attention. It's sort of like selective. It's the same problem with people with autism. They can't. They have. That's another type of sensory processing issue, right?
Mm.
But we don't really know it like when I look at the origin of this disorder, I think it's in the thalamus, and I think the rest of the cortex has been disrupted, right? And something's caused a major bloody complete catastrophe in the brain, basically. Yeah. But I think if you fix the origin of the problem, because I think Shankin and Paleda are looking at the dysfunction of the brain rather than its actual origin, and I'd rather focus on the origin and say, there's where the problem is. You fix that thing, the rest of the brain is going to sort itself out because the brain is incredible for sorting itself out, you know. And I just think
I think the good thing is that they're the ones who are probably going to end up cracking it because the funding for them is consistent now, and they've done really good research. Like I like the way Dr. Shankin got that research data about the 3% of the world. Like, because he's the one who found out 3% of the world is what may have BS. 2% of the UK. I think part of his groups did that. Like Paleda, him, and Goldsby really like that trio find out a lot of stuff. And yeah, I'm looking forward to his neurofeedback thing because I think that's going to really pay dividends. I think that's going to be really
yeah. So that's what's happening over the next 2 years. So we're definitely going to. I think, like Dr. White said, look, we should have treatment within the next 5 to 10 years. But he said, I don't promise it, but we should. And I mean, that's fucking good for like a vision problem. But I think like because that also sorts out tinnitus, which comes with this shit. Thankfully, mine's very meh. But I think it's just cracking on with it, trying to sort out the problem, get people cured. Because if this thing wasn't like permanent, I don't think the research would be going into it as hard out. Like I say, if I got visual snow syndrome 2 days a month, right, really
Mm.
bad for 2 days a month, I wouldn't even care about a cure at this point. I'd just be like, oh well, that's 2 days in the month. I have to put up with shit. It's weird though. Because I put a poll out on Reddit. I've done so many polls, it's ridiculous. But I put a poll out there and I said, would you rather put up with severe symptoms 1 day a month and then the rest of the month was completely symptom free? And a whole lot of people said, no, I'd rather have it permanently. I'm like, what the fuck? You know? Like, people are just, they're odd. But I think there's a portion of.
I have heard of things where people have had like conditions for all their life, and then the moment they had it removed, or in some weird way, depending on what the treatment was, they wanted it back again, and they're like, well, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" Like, seriously, it's like anyway. But it was interesting that Mayo Clinic actually did that video.
No, I sort of pissed off with their thing because they're like, they said in their thing, they're like, most people are born with this. And I'm like, no, most people are developing it rather than born with it. Because when I did a poll, it's like, it was like 20% was like, yeah, I would hit it. And like the big freaking margin over here said I got it later. I'm like, you fucking idiots at Mayo Clinic. What are you doing?
Oh no, like
You know?
it's good that it got like
Well, yeah, at least it's established now. Thank fuck for
yeah,
that.
it's established. Mayo Clinic is like the leading healthcare provider in the world, I think, from what I understand.
Yeah. And do you know what 3% of the world is? That's millions of people, man. That like schizophrenia is only 1% of the population of the world. 1%. Visual snow is 3%. And there are so many people that go on that Reddit forum saying, I thought this was normal. I thought static and all that was normal. So there are so many more people that have this. And it's only people like us who had normal vision and then got it. We're like, hey, what the hell is this shit?
There is that other group in Australia that seems to be doing like random research on its own, and I think there could be more stuff coming their way. I think in the UK there is 1 or 2 groups that do independent stuff as well. I've heard about things, but I don't really know much details about it. So I have a feeling that there is more going on, but it will just be sporadic in terms of when it comes out.
Yeah, I think because you got that team in bloody Sydney that has nothing to do with like and they were like, oh look, did you watch that video from the Sydney team?
No, what video?
I linked it to you like several times. I don't think you sat down and watched it.
Which one? Depends. There's so many videos. I don't remember.
The one from the Sydney team who found out that this is thalamocortical dysrhythmia. Claire Fraser or something? But yeah, she's like, oh, I've had to find you the video because there's a little article and then there's a big article and it's like, oh yeah, there's a problem with the alpha wave in the brain. In other words, it's not working properly.
You better send that to me. I'm sure you sent it before and watched it, but I somehow not registered it in my brain somehow.
Yeah, you need to watch it, and so don't just be like, I'll watch that later and forget, because then you're like, what video?
Yeah. Actually take it in. No, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah. It was. I just had to find the video, but it was basically seems like we've done this. That was what. Remember how you said, "Oh, Joanne Fielding seems a little salty about this." I'm like, "Oh, that Sydney team has found out. They've got the go ahead to do shit that she couldn't. You know." But yeah, it's fucking hell. I had to. No, I'd have to. Yeah, it all comes down to what you call cortical oscillatory, and if you look at a lot of other brain disorders like neuropathic pain and tinnitus, balance disorders, they're all coming from a oscillatory dysrhythmia. But basically, what oscillatory is it means it's synchronization. For some reason, they're like, why is this synchronization lost in the brain? It's like shit. I think once they find out like what's causing it, it should be easy to fix it up. But it's just the problem with visual snow is there's a lot of people on the Reddit forums or TikTok that are like, I think I see magical powers of my vision. And it's like, don't say fucking dumb shit like that.
They turn it into something so stupid. They don't realize by saying things like that, you actually
do a
diminish
disservice.
the severity and the importance of people realizing this is an actual condition.
Yeah, I know it's messed up. But there's been so many weird things come out about this, like you know what it is. So I'm just trying to find this video. It's like I'll link it to you later when I find it.
Mm.
But yeah, no, it was a good watch, man. It's like 30 minutes or something. Oh, actually, it's on my computer somewhere because I did save the thing. But yeah, she talks about like, here we go. I'll just put this into Google and it should find it. Is visual phenotype a thalamocortical dysrhythmia? Yes, it is. Yep, found it. So you can just watch this. It's 15 minutes. I'll just link that to you on. There you are. But yeah, anyway, we've been talking for an hour. But yeah, I think vision therapy in the long run, I dismiss it, don't like it, don't care for it. Try it if you want, but don't peddle that as you know science that it's going to fix things. I think it's probably going to come down to neuromodulation. There could be a absorption or receptor problem in the brain. We don't know. They haven't tested that. So I don't know. Like you said, there's not going to be a cure in our lifetime, but I think hopefully there's treatment because they what did they? I think it's OCD. They targeted the prefrontal cortex and it shut their OCD up for 6 whole months. 6 months it calmed it down. So when the visual snow syndrome is like, oh, we can target this part of the brain, the left or right temporal lobe or whatever, and we can fix your palinopsia for about 6 months, but then it will come back. It might be like that, you know, like what's the most bothersome symptom? We can help.
Yeah, I think as long as some of the groups are making real progress, I think we'll get there. I think Dr. Shankin's group will definitely be the ones that kind of like have the first treatment and find out really interesting information because most of the breakthroughs have come from them anyway. Like, I think Monash, it's too difficult to rely on them because of the funding issue. I think they have amazing ideas, but I think it's so difficult for them. I'll try and donate to them where possible, but don't think it's going to make much difference, to be honest. It's the institutional funding that makes the difference, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised they sent me a card saying thank you for donating to visual snow syndrome research. I'm like, well, at least I know where my money went. And like VSI didn't say anything, and the next minute they're spending it on T-shirts.
I think with them, it's like it'd be great if VSI put more effort into funding real research and not peddle like. Why are you encouraging that private trust?
Well, I hope at this point.
Like, I want to know how much money was donated to vision therapy. How much of that money could have gone to Monash?
Yeah, I wonder with the.
It's ethical questions to ask.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like Dr. Shang or Savolsky could be like, oh yeah, we can cure people, but they really don't, and they're just peddling the money and taking money from people.
Yeah, I work for a charity full time, and I can tell you the way they act is not as a charity should. Like I work for a US based charity in the UK branch, and the way they act is just not what I would consider right. The way they are with the way they communicate with donors, the way they spend funds, the lack of transparency. I'm just in the UK. You've got something called the Charity Commission that keeps charities in order. I don't know if in the US they've got anything of that sort, but someone needs to investigate them and look into how they operate. And I just don't agree with it.
No, I didn't like how they're like, oh yeah, we're doing this thing with from the Visual Snow Initiative. By the way, if you want treatment, please give us money. It's like, no, this is a charity. You get 10 people. VSI should have got 10 people. Say, work on these people, do your research, then you can promote your stuff. And what they're doing is they're promoting a fix for it before it's even established, and that's wrong.
But that's what pseudoscience is. It's just preying on the vulnerable, basically.
Yeah, I hate that. It's bad, eh?
Yeah, we've done our hour, it seems, already.
Yeah, I'll stop recording there. All right, thanks everyone for listening. It's just a general random discussion, and yeah.